The very first thing a man did after being reborn to the days before the apocalypse was inject himself with 2.5 tons of zombie virus. When my classmates saw this, they couldn't help but laugh, calling me a fool. But only I knew the truth. In just a few days, the cosmic trial would descend upon the planet. Over 90% of humanity would turn into monsters of all kinds, and the survivors would awaken innate abilities along with gods who wielded authority over universal laws descending upon mankind. Yet, since those gods could not directly intervene in Earth's trial, they disguised their actions as protecting humanity, enticing people to join under their banners, exploiting them for gain. But what I wanted was not to cling to those so-called deities. My goal was revenge against the dark god Helrose. In my previous life, after enduring countless hardships, I finally managed to join Helrose's faction. Even though I devotedly completed hundreds of missions for him, just one single failure led him to mercilessly erase me. All because I was the lowest-ranking human. As I lay dying, full of regret, I swore, if given a second chance, I would trample him beneath my feet and humiliate him brutally. What I never expected was that the hourglass I had picked up by chance in a dungeon would rewind time 10 days before the trial began. I recalled a rumor from my last life, that in fact, one's talent had already started functioning before the trial's descent. If you could discover and use your gift early, it could be upgraded. In my past life, I awakened the lowest tier virus resistance. Now, my plan was to activate my talent in advance, to level it up before the trial began. After disguising myself, I rushed to a large hospital nearby. Sure enough, there were already patients infected by the zombie virus. Although the doctors hadn't yet diagnosed what it was, I knew all too well this was the precursor to the trial. The patient before me had already mutated into a zombie. Without hesitation, I drew a syringe and plunged it into him, extracting a full vial of the virus. Back at my dorm, I found my roommates had all gone to an internet cafe to play games. Heaven itself seemed to aid me. Yet, staring at the vial of zombie virus, my heart was conflicted. If this method of activation was wrong, then my end would be nothing but a miserable death here in the dorm. But recalling the humiliation of my past life, I gritted my teeth, hardened my resolve, and stabbed the syringe into my artery. As the virus surged through my body, the searing pain drowned me like a tidal wave, until I collapsed unconscious. In my dream, I once again saw Helrose. Facing his seemingly sincere invitation, how could I possibly be deceived in this life? The next morning, my roommates returned from their all-night gaming session, only to find me in a half-human, half-zombie state. The three of them were so terrified they nearly wet themselves. Under the influence of zombie instinct, I staggered toward them uncontrollably until their desperate cries of my name snapped me out of it. Overcome with emotion, I rushed to the bathroom and found that the virus inside me was already subsiding. I had gambled correctly. My talent really had upgraded. I just didn't know what level it had reached. At that moment, the voice of the cosmic will echoed in my mind. I had been chosen as a forerunner, one who could awaken talents early. I immediately opened my system panel and to my shock, this time my awakened ability was none other than SSS-rank, Virus Monarch. The most powerful gift of the virus-type talents. Not only could it control and absorb viruses, it could even modify and create new ones. For now, I only had the ability to absorb. What I needed most was more viruses to grow stronger. I returned to the hospital, only to see crowds fleeing in panic. The first wave of the zombie crisis had already broken out. A nearby uncle yelled at me to run, but I remembered 3 strange incidents that happened in Jiangcheng before the trial began. One of them was the sealed hospital. If I wasn't mistaken, this was it. Ignoring the man's warning, I laughed and ran toward the hospital. For me now, this place was the perfect ground to gain strength. I quickly threw myself into battle. After dispatching a zombie with ease, I unleashed my exclusive skill, virus absorption, and gained my first virus point. Meanwhile, on the 4th floor bathroom, a man cowered in fear, bracing the door shut. He glanced at the nurse he had pursued for 2.5 years, and a twisted light flashed in his eyes. I chased you all this time, and you never gave me a chance. Since we're going to die anyway, I might as well have my fun before the end. Before he could finish, the zombies broke through the door. Lu Feng suddenly grabbed the trembling nurse and shoved her straight into the horde to buy himself a chance to escape. By the time I cleared the first 3 floors, I discovered the nurse on the ground, newly infected. Knowing the military would soon seal off the city, I realized I needed a guide familiar with the hospital. I used virus absorption on her, trying to draw the infection out. To my surprise, it worked, pulling her back from the brink. The first thing she did when regaining consciousness was apologize to me, proof she hadn't lost her mind completely. I pulled the head nurse along, urging her to take me to the hospital's virus storage. Guided by Su Xin, we reached the testing department and found a large cache of samples. I mixed them together and unleashed virus absorption in a frenzy, racking up virus points. Empowered by countless deadly strains, I gained a huge number of enhancement points. I invested them all into upgrading the zombie virus. 4 evolution options appeared, and I decisively chose Blacklight virus. It doubled my regeneration and granted me the ability to devour and purify. Just then, Su Xian's warning cry rang out, zombies were approaching. Before he could finish, I had already flashed forward to meet them. Feeling the surge of power within me, I grinned. Perfect time to test my new ability. From my palms, countless tendrils erupted, wrapping around the zombie. In just 2.5 seconds, it was completely devoured. As the tendrils retracted, I felt my stamina replenish sharply. But when Su Xian saw this scene, terror filled his face, before he forced himself to take a deep breath. Trying to steady himself, Su Xian forced calm into his breathing. He believed I wouldn't harm him and promised he would keep my secret. Just then, gunfire erupted throughout the hospital. It seemed the military had already begun sealing the place off. To avoid being dragged into quarantine, I grabbed Su Xian and headed for the rooftop. But before we could escape, a mutated zombie suddenly dropped down from above. Unable to dodge, its claws tore across my arm, yet instead of fear, excitement coursed through me. If I could absorb this mutant, I would gain even more power. The creature lunged first, but I twisted away at the last second, narrowly dodging its strike. With a powerful kick, I smashed its head, only to realize this mutant wasn't stupid. It turned midair and swung a fist at me. Thanks to my boosted speed, I barely avoided the blow. I quickly seized a nearby regular zombie, devoured it to replenish energy, then coated my fist with Blacklight virus before striking again. My attack left only a shallow dent on the mutant's skin and enraged it completely. I knew dragging the fight out would only weaken me. At that moment, Su Xian shouted and tossed me a fire axe. With the weapon in hand, my blows finally inflicted real damage, and the rhythm of battle shifted in my favor. After a fierce struggle, I seized the chance to finish it, only for the mutant's crimson eyes to flare as it hurled me against a wall with brutal force. Su Xian's face filled with worry, but mine with exhilaration. If the mutant had fled, I might never have been able to kill it. Instead, as it closed in, countless tendrils erupted from my abdomen, binding it tight. Within seconds, the mutant was devoured, reduced to nothing but nourishment for my growth. The Blacklight virus evolved further, granting me a brand new ability. My choice had been correct. Before I could savor the victory, a squad of soldiers burst in and surrounded me. Ignoring their shouts, I scooped Su Xian into my arms and charged through the hail of bullets. The Blacklight's regeneration rendered ordinary rounds meaningless, and before long, I carried Su Xian safely back to his home. The moment we stepped inside, he insisted on treating my wounds. I told him the bullets hadn't stayed in my body and the injuries had already healed, but he still wanted to check. When he saw my hardened 8-pack abs, his face flushed bright red. After decades in the apocalypse and my last life, I could instantly recognize the look of admiration in someone's eyes. If I made the first move, our relationship would undoubtedly deepen. And so it did. The next morning, after a night together, I went out for breakfast only to receive a call from Su Xian. A woman named Song Ziqiong was looking for me. Known as the Queen of Jiangcheng, Song Ziqiong was a formidable figure. In the last life, after awakening her innate talent, she built her own faction and unified Jiangcheng amidst three-way chaos. She was someone I could only look up to back then. But this time, with the advantage of rebirth, perhaps I could make her my ally or even bring her under my command. Soon, I met Song Ziqiong face to face. She tugged on my collar, saying she merely wanted to see what kind of man could captivate her daughter's heart. But I could tell that wasn't her real reason. Dropping pretenses, she asked if I would consider becoming hers. If I liked her daughter, she added, becoming her son-in-law wouldn't be out of the question either. I remained unmoved, questioning her motives. She smiled knowingly. She had seen my heroics in the hospital, caught on video by her men, and she knew I was someone worth investing in. I was stunned. I had destroyed every surveillance camera before leaving. How had she discovered me so quickly? As it turned out, one of her subordinates had filmed me, and through the survivors list, they had connected me to Su Xian's colleague, Lu Feng. That very same Lu Feng, who had betrayed Su Xian in the hospital. As my first woman in this life, Su Xian's humiliation was a debt I intended to repay in blood. Song Ziqiong promised she could hand Lu Feng over to me if I joined her. I laughed coldly. She had underestimated me. If anything, she should be the one begging to join me. I then unleashed my newly evolved ability before her eyes. Shock spread across her face. Was this a mutation of the zombie virus? Grinning, I told her, "Be mine, and I'll tell you what this power really is." She chuckled softly, countering that claws alone weren't enough to make her submit. Besides, she said, I already had a young, pretty nurse. Why would I be interested in an older woman like her? I lifted her chin with a smirk. A beauty like you? Any man with blood in his veins would be tempted. And in these last few days before the trial, you can help me far more than Su Xian can. I deliberately leaked pieces of information about the coming apocalypse. Her eyes sharpened, and she agreed to cooperate, offering her resources in exchange for my knowledge. Leaning close, she whispered that she had always longed for a man strong enough to conquer her. So give it your best shot. Chen, bye. Before I could respond, gunshots echoed outside. The Jiangqing military district had been negotiating with Song Ziqiong to requisition a frozen warehouse for live zombie storage. Something had clearly gone wrong. But zombies shouldn't be able to move in low temperatures, unless... I froze, realization dawning. In extreme environments, the chances of mutation skyrocketed. This must be tied to one of Jiangqing's three great anomalies, the suburban explosion. Without hesitation, I demanded Song Ziqiong take me there immediately. Meanwhile, at the frozen warehouse, chaos had erupted. A massive zombie rampaged wildly, tearing the place apart. Conventional weapons were useless. As the situation spiraled out of control, Commander Zhao reached for his communicator to request reinforcements, when suddenly... Song Ziqiong suddenly raised her hand, ordering Commander Zhao to cease fire and retreat with his men. Zhao looked at her in confusion, not understanding why she would have him withdraw at such a critical moment. But she explained firmly, with their current firepower, they couldn't even scratch the mutant zombie. Continuing to fight would only mean pointless deaths. It was better to escort the survivors to safety. Zhao shook his head. The monster was fast. If no one held it back, no one would escape alive. But Song Ziqiong was confident. Do as I say, she told him, someone else will deal with it. At that moment, the giant zombie's massive palm came crashing down toward a terrified woman. I arrived just in time to drag her away. But as I clashed with the creature, I quickly realized how rapidly it had grown. My casual grab nearly failed to save her. I couldn't fight it head-on. Instead, using my speed, I launched a hit-and-run assault, circling the monster until it grew dizzy and disoriented. Commander Zhao watched in shock. Glancing at him, Song Ziqiong smiled faintly, revealing that I was her partner. Frustrated, the giant zombie smashed a frozen storage unit, trying to consume the meat inside to regain strength. But I would never allow that. With a surge of blacklight virus, I devoured the mountain of beef myself. The high-quality meat not only restored my stamina but pushed the virus to evolve further, enhancing my strength and endurance. Summoning razor-sharp bone claws, I prepared for the killing blow. A flash of violet lightning lit the air, and with a thunderous crash, the monster's hulking body collapsed. Excited, I unleashed tendrils to devour its remains completely. Commander Zhao's eyes filled with both fear and killing intent. To him, I was no longer human. He reached for his communicator to call in missiles, but Song Ziqiong sharply stopped him. If you don't want to die, don't be foolish. 2.5 minutes later, the mutant was completely consumed. By then, the army had encircled me, but Zhao and Song had reached an agreement: as long as I didn't attack anyone, they would not act rashly. From the mutant's corpse, I gained 500 virus points and unlocked the exclusive Virus Monarch talent, Virus Infusion. My abilities soared. Beyond my bone claws, I now evolved a devastating new weapon form, the Heavy Hammer. Even more valuable was the monster's flesh core, a rare material that could be used to craft equipment or even construct a living wall of flesh that could grow endlessly. Song Ziqiong then introduced me to the woman I had saved, Lu Lin, a well-known reporter and influencer in Zhangcheng. I knew of her, and guessed correctly that she was the one who had secretly filmed me at the hospital. Overjoyed, she thanked me for saving her twice. Just then, Commander Zhao stepped forward again, saying that Commander Huang of the military wanted me to share everything I knew. The moment I heard the name Huang Xingqiu, my expression darkened. In my last life, after the trial began, Huang Xingqiu manipulated countless weak awakeners in the name of patriotism, exploiting them like cattle. I had once believed his lies, struggling desperately under his command, never even eating a full meal, while anyone who resisted was branded a traitor and hunted down. In the end, I was forced to abandon Zhangcheng. Sensing my hostility, Song Ziqiong stepped up and told Zhao she would handle it. When Zhao tried to guilt-trip me with talk of civic duty, she snapped coldly, "You're just a lowly commander. What right do you have to lecture us? If your superior wants to talk, let him come himself." Zhao was silenced instantly. Then a soldier rushed in, reporting that survivors in the quarantine zone were rioting. My heart leapt. I immediately asked if one of them was named Lu Feng. Sure enough, Lu Feng was the ringleader. Soon, he was dragged before me, smugly assuming his father, the deputy director, had rescued him. I clapped his shoulder lightly, injecting the zombie virus into his body, then whispered in his ear, "Someone wants you dead. So go die." I stepped back, shouting for everyone to move away. Lu Feng stumbled forward in confusion and rage, but within seconds his pupils warped, he collapsed, transforming into a zombie on the spot. Without hesitation, I shifted into Heavy Hammer form and smashed him into nothingness. The raw power of this new ability thrilled me. Turning to Song Ziqiong, I said her performance had been good, and I would reward her with information. To my surprise, she walked straight up to me. "I regret it," she said seriously. "Being just partners isn't enough. Is it still too late for me to belong to you?" I raised an eyebrow. "That depends on your worth and your performance." Soon, I boarded her private car to her villa. From the battle, I had also obtained 2 skill books, Bloodthirsty Rampage and Muscle Enhancement. Though too low level to be useful to me, they would be invaluable in the early trial, perfect tools to build influence and rally followers. Even better, the Flesh Mountain zombie had dropped 6 gold coins, enough to create a communication group. After some thought, I named a chat group number 1, the first step toward building my own White Emperor city. Back at the villa, I shared more details of the coming apocalypse with Song Ziqiong, enough for her to gain a crucial advantage. But she wasn't satisfied. Looking me straight in the eye, she asked how she could truly become mine. I gave her 2 conditions: no useless followers, and absolute loyalty. She smiled faintly, confident in her qualifications. Her power, wealth, and influence were unmatched in Zhangcheng. But I scoffed. When the apocalypse came, all of that would be worthless. Her expression faltered. If she and her daughter could become playthings in the future, was there really any difference between being my loyal dog and someone else's toy? I told her I could give her a stage to act freely, because I would always be stronger than her. I would never need to suppress her with petty control. Hearing this, she finally lowered her last defenses, dropped to one knee, and pledged allegiance. A woman I once had to look up to was now kneeling before me. The thought sent a rush of excitement through me. But just then, her brother Song Gu called. Frustrated by my disappearance, he was about to make his move. Song Gu originally intended to scold his mother, but when he realized I had picked up the phone, his tone instantly shifted to shock. He urgently asked about his mother Wen Yan's condition. Calmly, I told him she was eating and had no time to talk. Songgu didn't suspect a thing, instead turning his frustration toward me, complaining about how cold I had been toward him lately. Before he could finish, I hung up. Enraged, Songgu swore that one day he would make me submit to him. After the meal, Ziqiong gazed at me with a mixture of charm and anticipation, hoping I would protect her daughter in the chaos to come. I smirked. That depends on your performance. Far from being offended, Ziqiong responded seriously, vowing to do her best. I soon led them all to a warehouse. Along the way, Songgu grumbled non-stop, saying the idea of an apocalypse was ridiculous and mocking his mother for believing it. But Ziqiong silenced him sternly, warning him not to speak once we arrived. Just watch. When the warehouse doors opened, countless zombies surged out, roaring. I didn't panic. With effortless strikes, I tore through them, slaughtering hundreds within moments. From this, I earned the title Zombie Hunter, boosting all attributes and increasing my damage to zombies by 5%. More importantly, after harvesting over 500 virus samples, I unlocked the ability to exchange virus points for a serum formula, a game changer. Even Awakeners feared infection, but with this, I now had the foundation to build true power. I then ordered everyone present to kill a zombie themselves. Before the trial descended, slaying one with a melee weapon reduced the risk of mutation. If done barehanded without injury, it guaranteed immunity. First, Leng Shuang, Ziqiong's bodyguard, stepped forward. With sharp, decisive strikes, he dispatched a zombie cleanly. I nodded. His skill lived up to his reputation. Next was Ziqiong herself. Though lacking combat finesse, her weapon was enough to secure victory. When Su Xing's turn came, he was knocked down by the zombie's strength but barely managed to reverse the situation using his knowledge of human anatomy. Finally, Songgu was pushed forward. Terrified, he refused to fight, collapsing in fear and even wetting himself when the zombie advanced. Despite Ziqiong's desperate encouragement, he sobbed that he couldn't do it. I sighed in disappointment and prepared to leave. Before departing, I pulled Ziqiong aside, instructing her to investigate why so many zombies in Jiangcheng had suddenly vanished. She hesitated, glancing worriedly at her daughter, and asked what to do about Songgu. I handed her a slip of paper, the zombie virus serum formula. Astonished, she thanked me profusely, swearing she would fulfill my command. Later, I checked the pioneer post I had made online days earlier. Most netizens mocked it, thinking I was joking, but a private message caught my attention. A pioneer named Han Xiao had already awakened an S7 spiritual domination talent. I added him to chat group number 1. Unexpectedly, another pioneer reached out, Xuan, known in my past life as the Emperor of Water, one of the strongest. Recruiting him could tip the balance of power. By the next day, yet another pioneer contacted me, Lu Huai, with an SS-rank talent, the Sakura Wood Body. But my thoughts were cut short when Ziqiong rushed in, panic on her face. She revealed that Lu Li, who was investigating the zombie mystery for me, had been captured by Jiangcheng City Lord, the mastermind behind it all. The Lord demanded Ziqiong come to negotiate. I frowned. If the Lord could contact them, did that mean Lu Li had betrayed me? Horrified, Ziqiong dropped to her knees, swearing that Lu Li would never betray me. The problem must have been with the men he sent out. Relenting, I agreed to rescue him. At that moment, Lu Li was already tied up, being pressured by Xing Meng, the city lord, to submit alongside Ziqiong. Just as Lu Li fell into despair, the sound of a knife cutting stake broke the silence. No manners at all, I said, walking in. Forcing a girl to drink? Pathetic. Xing Meng froze. He hadn't even noticed me arrive. Suspicious of my power, Xing Meng retreated, but then steadied himself. He guessed correctly that I was a pioneer and tried to recruit me, proposing we rule Jiangcheng together. I laughed. Sorry, you're not qualified. Furious, he revealed his S-rank talent, Slaughter Mastery, capable of permanently absorbing slain enemies' attributes. Oppose me, and you die, he threatened. I sneered. You think an S-rank is enough? I am SSS-rank. Xing Meng attacked, but I countered easily with my bone claws, then switched to heavy hammer form. For a moment, he managed to parry, mocking me that my power wasn't so great. I only smiled coldly. My ability has already taken effect, you're just too stupid to notice. Suddenly, Xing Meng coughed blood, his system screaming infection alerts. Shocked, he realized too late that I had already infected him. Struggling under debuffs, he stood no chance. With one devastating blow, I impaled him, then consumed him entirely. From this, my blacklight virus underwent its first true awakening, granting me a new skill, the ability to view fragments of a devoured enemy's memories and even inherit their mastered techniques. With the trial only days away, hunting stray monsters was no longer worth it. Instead, I decided to spend the remaining time laying groundwork for what came next so I could crush Hellrose beneath my feet when the new world arrived.